Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Friends, today we are going to continue the Avijja Ahara Sutta from the Anguttara Nikaya, or the Numerical Discourses of the Buddha. Ahara means nutrition or food. Now, I didn't tell you earlier in the earlier discussion, but there are 4 kinds of ahara. Perhaps some of you may know of them. But anyway, I'll just tell you. Now, these are the Pali terms, and I will explain in English. Kabalinka ahara. Kabalinka ahara means the solid and the liquid food that we take. We take for the body with our mouths, right? So, that is called Kabalinka ahara, the normal food that we take. That's one kind of food. Then the next kind of food is Passa ahara. Passa ahara means contact. Contact with the eye, ear, nose, tongue. You know, the 5 senses. 6 senses really. So, Passa ahara. Then the third one is Mano Sanchetana ahara. Mano Sanchetana means thoughts. Thoughts, right? Mano means the mind. So, Mano Sanchetana is the thoughts that come into our mind. That's the third ahara. The fourth ahara is Vijnana ahara. That is the consciousness, right? So, these 4 aharas are used by all beings. All beings. So, anyway, just like the food that we take to keep our body alive, this food that we are going to talk about, you know, helps to develop nothing good, right? The defilements. The defilements are fed or given nutrition by these things, right? So let us look at them now. So that is why these are called nutrition. Nutrition. Now we have looked at the nutrition for Avijja or ignorance, right? The last time we looked at the hindrances and the ignorance. The ignorance is fed by the hindrances. Now today we are going to see what feeds the hindrances, right? What feeds the hindrances? What is the nutrition for hindrances? That is the misconduct that we do with our body, mind, and speech. In 3 ways, right? With the body, with the speech, and with the mind. We make all kinds of karma. Bad karma, good karma, both. So the defilements are made through misconduct. Misconduct, that is using these things, you know, the faculties, in the wrong way, right? So, so now we'll be examining the nutrition for the hindrances, or what keeps the hindrances alive, right? There are 10 akusala karmas, 10, right? You know, I think you know them. Anyway, there are 10 akusala or morally unwholesome karma. And these fall into 3 categories. What are they? before we come to the three categories, I want to tell you that now they are also called akusala. Now, kusala means good, meritorious, or skillful, wholesome, right? Kusala. When the A is added in front with akusala, it becomes the opposite, right? Akusala means defilements. So, it is these demeritorious actions that feed the hindrances in our minds. So, the bodily akusala or defilements are killing, stealing, and sexual and sensual misconduct. Right? So, when you say killing, don't think that you have to go take a gun and kill somebody. That's not the only way of killing. Sometimes we kill in our own houses, right? The cockroaches, the mosquitoes, the other flies and, little insects that come into the house. We kill them. And there are many, many other ways of, getting rid of them without killing them. Because killing them means we are collecting bad karma. So therefore, we must be careful about that, right? So, the killing, then stealing. Now, when you go into, now say you are doing a job. Your job starts at, say, 9 o'clock. You go at 10 o'clock and write 9. That is stealing the time, right? So like that, we don't think about these things, but we commit them without thinking, but still the karma will be done. So, therefore, we have to be careful, right? So, the bodily akusala are killing, stealing, and sensual and sexual misconduct. The verbal akusala are uttering untruths, malicious speech, harsh speech, and useless speech. There are 4 kinds of speech. The mental akusala are covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. Many people out of these 3 have wrong view. Many people have that, right? Wrong view. About not only spiritual things, but even other things, right? So, let us look at them. Greed, lobha, greed. Then ill will, dosa, and delusion, moha. These are the 3 things that these are called evil roots. And these cause the earlier 10 that we were talking about, the defilements, the 10 defilements. The 10 defilements are, flourish, or they sort of become bigger and bigger, and then, make lots of karma for us because of these 3. What are the 3? Greed, hatred, and delusion. So, when people do not have right view, that is, now, what is right view here? Now, I'm not talking of right view, in detail, but in this case, what we are looking at is, that is not understanding that there is a causal relationship between what we do and the results of those actions that they commit when they do unwholesome karma. But wholesome karma also has a result. It's a good result, right? But nevertheless, even when it is a good result, you must remember that whatever we do, if it's a karma, if we do it as a karma, then we are going to get to reap the result in a rebirth, right? So whether it's good karma or bad karma, the result is a rebirth. So then some people do not believe in the causal relationship, that there is a cause and a result, and we get the result of what we have done. So that is one way of looking at wrong view, right? Then another reason is that people don't have a spiritual urgency. You know, this word is samvega. The word for spiritual urgency is samvega. So people don't have that. You know, what it means is they do not realize that the purpose of following the spiritual path is to gradually weaken these evil roots by developing the opposing mental factors, right? Now, when we develop the other side, the opposite side of these, then we are collecting only good karma, right? So, people don't realize that, right? So, for that, you need that samvega or spiritual urgency, right? So, why do we need all these things? Because we have cultivated the wrong ways in our journey through samsara or through our rebirths. And these evils have become habitual. You know, when we do something, it's just habit, right? Which we have which we have brought from past births. So the Buddha said, Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadami. I'm sure most of you have heard this. Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadami. What does that mean? Monks, I call intention kamma. Intention I call kamma. That's what Buddha said. So without the intention, now if you go and open the tap without seeing that there were ants in the tub or whatever, the sink or wherever, and these ants are washed away, you are not going to get bad karma because you didn't see that, right? You didn't see it. Of course, you did it without mindfulness, right? You were not mindful enough to look and see, but that doesn't mean that you have collected a bad karma. But if you see it and in spite of it, you turn the tap on, then that is a karma. So that is how you have to look at it, right? That is why the Buddha said, intention I call karma. Due to our reactions to these sense objects, sense objects means for the eye, it's an object. For the ear, it's a sound. For the tongue, it's a taste. So like that, the objects of the senses. We react to them, right? We react to the sense objects. Some of these thoughts give rise, the thoughts that come along with the contact, then what happens? Give rise to actions by body, speech, and mind. And these are always a thought comes first. When the mind is open to the external world, we respond to situations and persons unskillfully, motivated by attachment, ill will, and ignorance. These are the three things that cause us to form opinions about people, right? Good, bad, equal, all kinds of, ill will and so on, anger, even friendship. Though these defilements are divided into three, they are very often combined. For thought comes first, and then speech, and if necessary, then action. Some people take to alcohol because of abnormal desire or craving. Some others to drown their sorrow or despair. They take to alcohol or drugs. Still others by association with friends. Now I know some people who attend a party and have the same amount of alcohol in their glass, right through the party till all the others have finished, because that person does not want to drink. So there are people like that who use their wisdom, but there are others who get, just drunk. So, taking alcohol or drugs in itself does not cause bad karma. The actions that follow, like getting into quarrels or fights, leading even to harming or killing, could land one even in jail. So it's the later actions that are the karmic form the karmic reactions. So a cowardly person, there are certain people who are cowards, and they in their normal frame of mind, they cannot face somebody and say something. But when they gain pseudo courage by getting drunk, they can utter harsh or abusive language to humiliate that person. There are instances of even respectable people falling to such low depths as to lie naked in drains after getting drunk. I have heard of these stories, right? So one's livelihood also could cause bad karma. For instance, if one is working in a chicken farm, this is just an example, right? But there are many, many other places where one could, collect bad karma. You can think of them as I say this. So even if one does not kill any birds, but authorizes the killing by just signing papers, the bad karma and its results would follow. Like you remember the verse in the Dhammapada? The ox does not like the cart, but the cart with the laden cart, it has to, it follows the ox. Just like that, the bad karma also follows the person. So, when it comes to stealing, it is specially stated that if one evades the customs, there is a duty on your goods when you come from somewhere, when you bring a lot of goods, then one commits a criminal offense. Quite often, people do not see the gravity of their actions, because we are tempted to see such actions as skillful. Oh, that person, he brought all this, without paying the customs duty. If someone is abusive, it's possible to mentally decline to accept that gift, the gift that is the gift of the abusive language, right? You can be silent and wait for the tirade to end and say, I do not want your abusive gift. So you can take it back and use it yourself. As the Buddha once said to a Brahmin who was abusive, let that person keep their anger and insanity without letting it affect you, so that you don't make any bad karma. Even if it's a friend, if his or her behavior is hypocritical, there are some people who pretend to be good friends, but actually they are not. They are envious and jealous and want to harm you, right? So if their behavior is hypocritical and dishonest, it's best to end that friendship before you are also influenced. In metta, loving friendliness, meditation, we are asked to radiate metta to even those who hurt us in the past, or maybe in the future, sometime in the future. This is not a spiritual measure, but it's necessary to completely purify our minds of all unwholesome things before entering the spiritual level. Before trying to meditate, we have to get rid of all the bad stuff that is collected in the mind. So that is why we have to send metta even to the enemy. So for our own happiness and freedom, we should let go of all hostile thoughts. Then, when the heart opens out to the other, it will be possible to realize that she or he too does not like pain or suffering, but want happiness. If this person brings harm and trouble in day-to-day living, the best thing to do would be to keep that person at arm's length. Not to entirely avoid, but, during the day. A happening to the Dalai Lama may be interesting for you also. It was interesting for me too. Just before finally leaving Tibet, he was invited to a play or drama or movie or something by the Chinese. By that time, the Chinese had occupied Tibet. It was a friendly invitation, but requested him to come alone. Although the Dalai Lama had no anger or resentment towards the Chinese for all that they had done, he recognized that it was a tactic to kidnap or kill him. So he did not go. So you have to, when something is given to you or you are invited or something, you have to think a little before accepting. Continued abuse could cause low self-esteem, which is difficult to heal. There are some who use extremely strong abuse in their homes, but in company are very polite. Sometimes in a marriage, one of the partners is abusive, both sexually and otherwise, towards the spouse, which may break up a marriage. Then the greatest sufferers are the children, and the childhood memories and traumas would make their adult lives unhappy and fractured. Why do people use untruths? Some may lie to gain something, position or money or a favor or something. Another may lie to outdo another in the race for promotions in their, workplace. Still another, out of anger or grudge, may lie to put someone in trouble. Whatever the reason, quite often, if one were to look for the root cause, it may be due to one's childhood upbringing. A child who is always repressed or thwarted, and if brought up very strictly, may learn to lie to escape punishment. This trait may continue even as an adult. The Buddha says, without investigating, scrutinizing, one speaks in praise of someone who deserves dispraise. One who should not be praised is praised because one does not investigate, does not find out, right? But believes somebody and then goes on praising. Then another one, what is that? And without investigating, etc., one dispraises one who deserves praise. Who should be praised is not praised. Similarly, one believes a matter that merits suspicion. It should be really doubted, suspected, but believes it. Again, without investigating, one is suspicious of a matter that merits belief. Something that could be believed is suspected. Possessing these four qualities, now this is the Buddha, right? The Buddha who's saying this. Possessing these four qualities, one is deposited in hell, as if brought there. With the opposite qualities, one is deposited in heaven. Harsh speech shows animosity or hostility that has been hidden and erupts like an active volcano. The gossip is a person who is fond of talking. It could be a need for recognition or one who cannot bear to be alone, for she or he had been neglected as a child. Now that is just one reason, but there may be many more reasons. The Buddha says that when the mind is wrongly directed, then actions, speech, and thought also become wrongly directed. This attitude towards ourselves and others become distorted, and then it influences all our activities, right? We start doubting people and lying to people and doing all kinds of wrong things. If there is a problem in our mind or in connection with others, instead of ignoring it or try to solve it superficially, it's best to get to the root of it. Why is this so? How did it happen? Where did I go wrong? These are questions you can ask yourself. Sometimes when what can be solved by discussion becomes a big issue later, which may break up families or friendships. These attitudes may be character traits also. One has inherited from previous births. So you can see what we do and what we think is not entirely what has happened in this life. Sometimes our previous lives also influence us, right? To overcome them, one needs a deeper understanding of oneself. We have to ask ourselves how feelings or hindrances arise. Buddha says that before, while, and after an action, one should investigate and see if it has hurt yourself or others. You see, now when we are doing something, or when we have finished it, or even while we are doing it, we can think, is this going to hurt me, or is this going to hurt other people? Then we could rectify the faults if there are any. Now, I'm going to tell you something that happened during the Buddha's time. When Venerable Mahakassapa was residing in Rajagaha, there were two novice monks. A novice is a Samanera, right? Two Samanera monks or novice monks who were training under him. One of them was obedient, respectful, and took good care of the teacher. The other was pretentious and always tried to get credit for the work done by the other. There are people like that, isn't that so? So, for instance, when the faithful novice had prepared warm water for bathing, the other one would quickly go to the teacher and telling him that the water was ready invite him to bathe. As if he had done it, right? All the water, the warming of the water, all that, as if he had done them. Venerable Mahakassapa gently advised him because he was an Arahant. So he knew that this man was, at fault. But he did not chastise him. He went to, this novice monk went to a family that used to offer alms food to the teacher, to all of them actually. And saying that the teacher was ill and needed special food, got choice food prepared, good different kinds of, with ghee and all kinds of things prepared, and took it. But on the way, he ate it. When the teacher questioned him and counseled him not to do such things, again he was very angry. The next day, after the teacher and the other novice had gone for alms, he broke all the utensils in the monastery and set fire to the monastery and ran away. He could not run very far, When the Buddha heard about it, he said that one should associate with one who is better or equal to one, or be alone. Never associate with fools. This novice monk was covetous. So you can see this is actually the covetousness is put into action. Covetous. For he wanted the credit that was rightly another's and was ungrateful, envious, and refused any guidance from elders because he had wrong view. After death, he was born in Avijja or hell. So you can see he lost both worlds. The Buddha gives two mental qualities which gives security and moral protection for everyone, as well as the society in which one lives. What are they? They are called Hiri and Ottappa. That is, shame regarding moral violations and fear of the consequences of wrongdoing. They are termed guardians of the world, Lokapalaka Dhamma. For if humans were to observe these, there would be very few moral violations in the world. If one has self-respect, one would try to behave well, whether in society or alone. For Hiri is an internal discipline based on one's own intrinsic dignity. A feeling of shame urges one to overcome unwholesome mental states because of family, education, or relatives. You see, because they are flaws in one's character. Ottappa or fear could arise in one due to self-reproach for wrongdoing. That is, that person has done wrong or not done the correct thing, right? So therefore, there is always self-reproach. One reproaches oneself. Or whether it's a monastic or lay person, or, you see, that person could get reproach from others. Then also there is the dread of punishment in this world as well as in the next. Or rebirth in lower worlds. Now these are the things that can be, that can create fear in you. Usually fear arises when one is faced with some kind of danger. But anxiety arises from a hidden source, which may be mental. A person who has many desires that are not practical, but cannot give up because of greed, has much fear. Buddha said, Tanhaya jayati bhayam. Craving causes fear. When one's loved ones fall seriously ill, concern turns into fear. Similarly, attachment to one's life, sickness, threat to one's life, loss of job or reputation, all these can cause fear. Another type of fear is the result of leading a life of misconduct. Guilt, remorse, and fear may cause worry and restlessness. Can you see all the hindrances, how they come? How does one abandon fear? The Buddha's answer is, when one sees a robber or criminal arrested and subjected to misery, you know, those days there were all kinds of physical, injury, harm, right, done to the criminal. So, if one is misconducting herself or himself, would be afraid of the consequences and refrain from wrong conduct, or the fear of vipaka or consequences in future life, may develop good behavior. It's possible to change the direction of one's life by converting the bad karma to good karma. The Buddha said, protect yourselves, monks, then you protect others. The silent example of self-development will help and encourage others to see that a selfless and peaceful life can be put into practice, whether one is a monastic or a lay person, not just the subject of sermons. The most efficient way of practicing good conduct is by observing the 5 precepts seriously. This would take care of the morality or sila. Those who are familiar with the Satipatthana Sutta, that is called Establishment of Mindfulness in English, would see that the aim of that sutta is to awaken us to being fully conscious of our thinking, speech, and actions. Why is that word conscious, being fully conscious, taken here? That is because most of us live a half-conscious life. It teaches the way to happiness in this life itself. Even in day-to-day living, one becomes strong in refraining from wrong speech and action when one is mindful of one's thoughts. One who follows this sutta is also practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. Right mindfulness is to know when one has a lustful, angry, conceited, or envious thought, etc. Then replace it by its opposite without reacting immediately. This recognition and conversion is possible when the mind is open, flexible, and is in training. In training means not that you are under somebody's guidance, but you are guiding yourself in the Dhamma. The Buddha says that heedfulness should be practiced by abandoning bodily, verbal, and mental misconduct, developing good conduct, abandoning wrong view, and developing right view. Thank you. So, do you have any questions? If you have any, please ask.
Yeah.
Yes?
You said that, the fifth precept, the Suramere.
Hmm?
Now it's the fifth precept, right?
Yeah.
And if a person takes alcohol
Mm-hmm.
and just don't, act on it, but isn't it still bad that you are breaking the fifth precept?
That, that is a sort of mental attitude of people, right? Now, some people might think that taking alcohol itself is wrong. Actually, it can be, why Buddha said is, now if you read if you take this precept,
Yeah.
let me give you the precept. Now, if you take this precept, Meraya Majjapama Dattana Veramani Sikkapadang Samadhyami. Now, what it means is, I undertake the training rule to abstain from intoxicating drinks and drugs causing heedlessness. Can you see that word? Causing heedlessness. So, that is Pamadattana, right? Majja Pamadattana. That is, when you take these intoxicants, you become heedless. That is why Buddha says, do not use it. But there are some people who can use it and still be quite conscious. That is a different thing.
Okay.
So the taking of it, the taking of the alcohol itself, that is why I said is not a bad karma.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that you should go and take alcohol.
I want to make sure.
Any other question? Nivalka, no question? One indication of the talk, whether you have listened to it and whether you have understood it, is asking questions. Buddha always invited questions, right? So, if you have any, please ask. Otherwise, let us go into the meditation, right?
We can do that.
No questions, okay? So then please sit down with your back straight, with the neck and the head. Sit properly and keep your hands one on the other, right on the left, or even on your knees, it's all right. Today, I'm going to give you, maybe we have done it before too, but anyway, first take a few deep breaths, because that's very important, so that, your body is ready for the meditation. Take a few deep breaths. Right? You're ready now. So today we'll be doing a meditation about the elements, but it will be a very brief one, because we don't have time. Otherwise, this is a very long meditation, really. But I hope you can do it on your own later. So please close your eyes. Now, you know that there are 4 elements. So these are the 4 elements: Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo. Patavi is the earth element. Apo is the water element. Tejo is the heat element. Vayo is the air element. We all have these 4 elements in our body. Now let us take the earth element. That doesn't mean that it is like the earth. It means that there is a hard quality as well as a soft quality in the earth element that is in our body. Let us look at a few of the things that belong to this element in our body. It's not necessary to look outside. Let us look inside. Now, the hair, the bones, teeth, nails, even the flesh, skin. Most of these things are, if you look at your own body, belong to the earth element. Try to think of some more of the elements that belong to the earth element. Now, our exercise is not complete if we just look at them. Why do we look at them? To see if they are permanent or impermanent. They are impermanent. They are not what they were 10 years back, 20 years back, 30 years back. Right? Quite different now. So, these are impermanent. The earth element that's in our body is impermanent. Because it is impermanent, it is not satisfactory. That is why it brings dukkha to us, or suffering. So, can such an impermanent, unsatisfactory thing be called mine, ours? Can you call it mine? Think for yourself. So it is not self, no self there. Let's take the next one. I hope you can continue later on your own. Let's take the next one, that is the apo or water element. Now there is in our body the water element, the blood, urine, saliva, perspiration, and so on, right? Water element. Is that satisfactory? That's also unsatisfactory. Not something that we really can enjoy. The water element is also impermanent. Unsatisfactory, impermanent. Can it be ourselves? No. So, the water element is also not a self. It doesn't belong to us. Why do we get attached to this form? The heat element, that is the warmth that we feel now. If you have your hands together, you'll feel the warmth. That's the heat element. That is what helps to digest our food. It helps to keep the blood flowing. The heat element. Is that impermanent or is it permanent? Is it the self? Is it satisfactory? You will find that that is also impermanent, unsatisfactory, so that you cannot say the heat element is mine. It's my heat element. Now we come to the other element, that is the air element. That is something that we are very familiar with because we meditate on it, right? But still, is the air element permanent? Of course, it's always there. If it was not there, we would be just like a rock without life. But is it permanent? Sometime it will also vanish, just like all the others. That is when we call the person has died. So the air element is taken from outside and it goes in and goes out, in and out. But it is not satisfactory. And if there was no air element, it would give us a lot of suffering. Now the COVID is doing that, isn't that so? It's very difficult to breathe when you contact that disease. So people realize the value of the air. But that is also unsatisfactory, impermanent, and it's not ourselves. Now let us look outside. You will find all these four elements outside too. In different forms, of course, different from us, but outside also. If you take a tree, you will find that all four are there. So why do we try to think of this body and mind as mine? Let go of it. We'll find the burden that we have laid down the burden. So friends, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you all for coming. I hope it has helped you in some way. May all of you be well. happy and peaceful.